Mr. Chair, council members, and participants, we are now live.
Good morning, everyone. I am Mark Squilla, and today we have on June 2nd, the Committee on Commerce and Economic Development. Before we begin the public hearing, I will make the following announcements. Due to the continuing threat of public health and COVID-19, City Council committees are currently meeting remotely. We're using Microsoft Teams to make these remote hearings possible. Instructions for how the public may view and offer public testimony at public hearings at Council. Committees are included in the public hearing notices that are published in the Daily News, the Inquirer, and the Legal Intelligencer prior to the hearing, and can also be found on phlcouncil.com. I now note that the hour has come. Mr. McGonigal, would you please call the roll of people taking attendance, and the members who take attendance, please signify by saying aye or present as we move forward. Mr. McGonigal?
Councilwoman Brooks? Councilman Dom?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, colleagues, attendees, and happy birthday, Sean.
Thank you. Councilwoman Gaultier?
Good morning, Mr. Chair and colleagues present.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson?
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, colleagues, and happy birthday, McMonigal.
Thank you, Richardson. Councilman Green? Councilman Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. McMonigal. The quorum of the committee is present, and the hearing is now called to order. This is a public hearing on the Committee of Commerce and Economic Development regarding resolution number 220424. Mr. McMonigal, would you please read the title of the resolution?
Resolution number 220424, a resolution authorizing the Committee on Commerce and Economic Development to hold hearings to examine the economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on professional services, specifically barbershops and beauty salons, to assess the impact of the SABER grants administered by the Commerce Department, and to explore the creation of a new specialized grant program for barbershops and beauty salons.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. McMonigal. Before we begin the hearing, testimony from the witnesses we have for today. Everyone who has been invited to the meeting to testify should be aware that this is a public hearing being recorded. Because the hearing is public, participants and viewers have no reasonable expectation of privacy. By continuing to be in the meeting, you are consenting to being recorded. Additionally, prior to recognizing members for the questions or comments they have for the witnesses, I will note for the record at this time that we will use the chat feature available on Microsoft Teams to allow members to signify that they wish to be recognized in order to comply with the Sunshine Act, and the chat feature must only be used for this purpose. Before we call the panel, Mr. McMonigal, do we have any comments from any of the board members? Councilmember Parker, did you want to make a statement before we start it?
Yes, thank you so very much, Chairman Squilla. Let me just start by saying that traditionally, and you mentioned this, Chairman Squilla, prior to us starting, that barbershops and beauty salons, particularly Black and Brown owned barbershops and beauty salons, they have served as more than just cosmetic institutions. These types of businesses serve as a springboard into entrepreneurial careers, a cultural meeting place across communities, a safe space for men, women, and children, and a place where people get access to vital health, educational, and social resources. At the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, barbershops and beauty salons suffered tremendous economic setbacks and businesses were forced to close. These types of professional services, they were severely limited due to the structure of their service delivery in open spaces with little or no ability to isolate. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, between February and April of 2020, the number of jobs at employment-based salons plunged a whopping 84%. Even as the industry began to gradually recover in April of 2020, the Professional Beauty Association reported that only 93,000 people, this is nationwide, were on payroll at employment-based salons, and that was down from 569,000 in February 2020. And that you'll remember that was right before the pandemic. Their report also noted that this was the fewest number of salon jobs in well over 5 decades. In the city of Philadelphia, according to the Pennsylvania Professional Image Alliance, who we will hear from today, and I want to thank them for bringing the issues and concerns to my attention. More than 90% of the stylists and the barbers, they experienced a significant loss in business revenue, clientele, and bricks and mortar locations. And listen, many more were forced to use already limited resources to install safety mechanisms in their shops. Some took more extreme measures for the record, and they had to pivot from operating from their homes, or they had to convert to a mobile service to visit their clients at home. And some had no choice but to file for unemployment while they waited for an opportunity to apply for local, state, and federal grant assistance. To its credit, and we want to give credit when we get it right, the Philadelphia Commerce Department, they observed the economic impact of the pandemic on this particular industry, and then they acted. The Commerce Department, in partnership with the Office of Community Empowerment and Opportunity, CEO, I think Mitch is here, I see Karen, vested in Entrepreneur Works and PPIA, established the Salon and Barbershop Emergency Relief Program. We refer to it as SABER, which provided 159 hair care businesses with small grants. Now, this program was designed to provide financial relief to businesses in the hair care industry that were among the most adversely impacted by the city's sort of pandemic-related restrictions. However, and this is important, due to the limited resources in the SABER program, access was limited to just 17 zip codes in the city, excluding an extensive number of business owners who were equally at risk of losing their businesses, their storefronts, their clientele, and to be quite frank, lifelong investments. Barbers and stylists, they continue to navigate the pandemic. They're hoping for an economic recovery, but they're still facing challenges such as inflation and supply chain issues. Think about those who are saying, can I get gas or do I go get a cut? Many have not reached pre-pandemic revenue levels, and they continue to face challenges tackling professional and personal debt that they accumulated during the pandemic while trying to rebuild their clientele, rebranding their business services, and fighting to support their families. Barbershops and beauty salons, they are instrumental in communities. They help stabilize neighborhood business quarters in their roles as destination services, bringing people to quarters who then patronize other nearby businesses, including apparel shops and restaurants, which ultimately have a positive impact on the overall stability of our neighborhood-based commercial quarters. So as we move forward from the COVID-19 pandemic, although cases are going up, so I won't say forward, I'll say through, and its economic fallout, the city must explore, Mr. Chairman, new ways to support these institutions. Special thank you to Chairman Squilla, to your team, and who's clerking for us today, Sean McGonigal. And I look forward, Mr. Chairman, to hearing from these business owners firsthand what it's like to walk in their shoes and why the city must make investing in them a priority. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Council Leader. Very well said. Mr. McMonagle, can you please call the panel to have the testify this morning on resolutions number 220424?
Yes, can we please have Karen Fagley followed by Mitch Little? Mitchell.
Thank you. Welcome, Karen and Mitch. Karen, I guess if you're available, just state your name for the record. I do see you on screen.
Yep. Good morning.
And, also, before you start, Karen, we just want to recognize Councilmember Jones is present for the committee hearing. He had that nice sharp hat on, I guess, to show that he really didn't need to go to a salon or anything this week. So But thank you for that.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair.
Karen, just state your name again for the
Mr.
record.
Chairman,
And proceed.
For the record, I got it from South Philly.
Yeah, good. Karen, just state your name and proceed with your testimony.
Sure. My name is Karen Fegley, Deputy Commerce Director. I'm here to testify today on resolution number 220424. I feel like I'm going to repeat some of what the Councilwoman Parker already said, and I think so is, and Mitch and I are also talking from some of the same points, so I'll try to abridge a little bit. As a result of mandated business closures and reopening restrictions, the personal services industry was certainly one of the hardest hit by the pandemic. And it is also well recognized that these businesses, especially barbershops and hair salons, are cornerstones of our communities and have a broader impact beyond just hair care. As Council knows, and with your support, Commerce has been involved in multiple business relief programs since March 2020, including a citywide small business relief fund, a citywide restaurant and gym relief program, a statewide small business relief grant, a statewide hospitality industry relief program, and in 2021, Commerce partnered with the Office of Community Empowerment and Opportunity, Vested in, and Entrepreneur Works to develop SABER. The concept and funding for SABER came from our colleagues at CEO. The recipients, as was stated, comprise 159 business owners. They were pre-selected from a pool of businesses that had already applied for the city and state programs. And that's because we didn't want small businesses to have to fill out yet another application without confidence that they would be awarded. The eligible businesses also had to be located in one of 17 priority zip codes with the highest poverty rates. Entrepreneur Works Vested in and the PA Professional Image Alliance were critical in guiding the businesses to access these relief dollars. Of the 159 awardees, 99% were minority owned and 60% were women owned businesses. SABER was certainly very necessary and well received. However, there were challenges as the complexity of the industry, since often each chair in a barbershop is its own business, for example. Another challenge with these programs is fear of fraud and technology challenges that make it difficult for businesses to get to the finish line. We were literally hand delivering a number of checks to business owners. I want to thank Councilmember Parker for her continued advocacy on this issue. We are happy to partner with Council on all strategies that help small businesses reopen, recover, and grow in Philadelphia. I do want to comment that any new relief fund needs to be carefully designed to consider one, administrative staffing, both for processing the applications and proper record keeping. Outreach and technical assistance is needed, especially funding support for what we've been referring to as our trusted partners, organizations that are on the ground spreading the word and providing application assistance. And third, setting the criteria for the eligibility and the preference to ensure that the funds really reach the targeted audiences. And we don't want to waste the time of our vital small business community by not being really clear about that up front. So thank you for the opportunity to testify. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Karen, thank you so much for your testimony. And one just quick question before we go to Mitch. During the process of the pandemic and when we were reaching out to a lot of these small businesses, did we see that any of these small businesses were able to take advantage of that? Or is there something that we could have done differently to maybe have attracted the interest or at least the knowledge or to share the knowledge of how to apply to these programs that we had during the pandemic?
Yeah, I think we certainly attempted this with everyone, and we learned as we went about some sort of tips and tricks about doing it, but you have to build in that time and like sort of paid assistance for outreach. You need folks who can really go out. I mean, we knew before the pandemic that small businesses don't always have all their paperwork together and so forth. So this was certainly eye-opening for many of them. And there are a lot of services that exist for that, but it just needs to be really on the ground, and it needs to be from trusted sources, from folks who are sort of their colleagues or peers in the industry or part of some thing that they identify with, whether it's a neighborhood organization or an ethnic or cultural organization or a trade organization. And we need time. I mean, we did this right from the beginning, like it should never be first come, first served, right? You need time for people to get in, so you make sure the folks who need it the most have the time to apply.
Yeah, because what we saw is that people are better prepared are usually first in line to fill out these applications, and the ones who aren't are at the end. And so it seems like it's disappropriated. But also, we could do a better job as council with outreach. I mean, especially with some of our commercial corridors and how we get that information to them. But it's also, we have a lot of these small businesses that aren't a part of a commercial corridor. So maybe somehow as we work with commerce, to build some type of link or form with these businesses that are not part of a commercial corridor, that actually send that information out to them and get to them. How do we then reach them? I don't know the answer, but maybe that's something we could work on, throughout the summer to be able to better adapt to that. So,
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. If we next go to Mitch to testify. Mitch, just state your name for the record and then proceed.
Mitch Little, Executive Director, Office of Community Empowerment and Opportunity. Good morning, Councilperson Squilla and other members of the committee. It's a pleasure to be here today. Like Karen said, I feel like I'm a part of the choir today because we're all singing on key here about this sort of very important issue. So some of my comments today might complement some of what you've already heard today. Just as a reminder, CEO is the city's community action agency, and our mission is to provide leadership on economic issues of justice, advancing racial equity and inclusive growth so that all Philadelphians might share in the city's prosperous future. I thank Councilmember Parker for introducing resolution number 220424 and inviting me here to testify today. This effort was in keeping with CEO's mission as we envisioned and funded the Salon and Barbershop Emergency Relief Program known as SABER to support equitable COVID-19 recovery. We were certainly pleased to partner with our colleagues at the Department of Commerce and their tremendous help all along the way, along with Vested In and Entrepreneur Works. We could not have done it without them. This partnership distributed grants of $5,000 each to 159 businesses, and a more recent second round of funding offered those same businesses additional $1,200, potentially providing a total of $6,200 to grantees. I applaud the Commerce Department for how swiftly they acted in those early days to get financial assistance out to shuttered businesses on our neighborhood commercial corridors. And so CEO wanted to contribute to those efforts. And so we allocated $1 million of our federal community services block grant dollars, our CARES Act funding, to create the SABER program. Surely you all are now familiar with the reports on how small businesses in majority white neighborhoods were receiving Paycheck Protection Program loans much more quickly than small businesses in majority Black and Latino neighborhoods. Businesses owned by people of color were also more likely to be denied PPP loans. Research before the pandemic had already showed that businesses owners of color are routinely treated worse than white business owners when applying for bank loans, leading to a disparity in business lending and a lack of adequate capital investment in businesses of color. Giving this inequitable treatment and access, we wanted to support those business owners who were already at a disadvantage and needed investment to weather this unprecedented crisis. As you know, salons and barbershop has a higher percentage of employees of color than most other businesses. In all businesses in the U.S., only about 12% of employees are Black, about 18% are Latino, and only about 6% are Asian. As you can see from the chart, my testimony, a whopping 39.4% of barbershop employees are Latino, and salons and barbershops have a greater share of Black and Asian employees as compared to all other businesses. The loss of these businesses would have hit employees of color higher, so we hoped our modest investment would help retain these jobs somewhat. Salons and barbershops are also an important opportunity for entrepreneurs of color due to lower capital cost of opening compared to other small businesses. So CEO wanted to help these entrepreneurs who are at risk of losing their businesses that many of them, essentially built from the ground up. Knowing that business owners of colors are always sort of woefully underrepresented in other industries. see themselves represented on commercial corridors and in neighborhoods in positions of entrepreneurship so that they can provide a future for themselves as business owners. So we just thought this was a critical sort of opportunity. We knew that this industry had been resistant to sort of big box stores and online companies. And as stated earlier, really vibrant and essential components to neighborhoods, watering holes for communities, exchange of information through trusted sources, and oftentimes rites of passages. So there's a council member today who might mention that we we often see each other in the barbershop, and he sees me with my son there, and my son gets his hair cut by the same guy who cut my hair since I was 14 years old, and it's important to have such a space. So culturally, as a lifelong Philadelphian, CEO was proud to create this program, and we hope that it leads to more partnerships with the Commerce Department to advance equitable economic recovery across Philadelphia. So thank you for allowing me to provide testimony today.
Thank you, Mitch. A great testimony, and thank you for your work here. Before we go into questions, I see that we're having some problem with a couple people trying to log in. Council support has asked the participants to try to log in again, if they could do that. Hopefully we could get them in. If not, let us know, and council support will work, at least on I think Daryl and Tanya, who aren't able to log in. Council Member Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, one, I want to go back on the record again and say a special thank you to both Karen and Mitch for being here today. Each of your respective departments have been heavily vested, in this issue. I appreciate your documenting the ingenuity and the speed through which the city responded. Everything's not right and everything's not perfect, but when we do get something right, when we do it right and we act together to get it done, that needs to be a part of the public record as well. Karen, I want to start with you. 3 very important things you said from my perspective in your testimony. Any new relief funds, and let me be clear for the record, that was the purpose of my wanting to make sure that we put on the record of the issues that were brought to us, that we use this budget process as an advocacy effort to secure additional funding to support this industry. And with that in mind, Karen, you said the important thing. You said, listen, any new relief funds need to be carefully designed. And you talked about 3 important things. The first thing you said was administrative staffing. Second, it was for processing applications and for proper record keeping. That was in 1. Second, outreach and technical assistance with trusted partners, and setting the criteria for eligibility and preference. Because listen, and Chairman Squilla, I want to note this for the record. Every time I hear people talk about just the neighborhoods where we have the deepest level of poverty, in my mind, here we go, pitting the have-nots versus those who have just a little bit, right? And I don't want the city of Philadelphia to have to sort of penalize a small business that is thriving in another community, and we've pit them against one another. That's what I'm hoping, Mr. Chairman, we can address this time, because so many people and neighborhoods get left out of the mix. Karen, quantify for me to the best of your ability. I'm not expecting anything exact. When you talk about administrative staffing, because it has to be somebody's job at Commerce to manage this, what dollar amount are you talking about? So as we're making our ask, we've kept in mind very specifically, even if it's just a ballpark. And Mitch, I'm going to ask you the same question as well. When you think about what CEO did, and as it relates to staffing administratively, what would you need to carry out something?
You are putting me on the spot. So, typically, I'm going to say, Commerce always needs staff, right? We always need staff support. Thank you, council. Please do what you can. But But when the funding, probably we end up using like a third party to administer it. In some cases, it was PIDC. In the case of SABER, we used invested in, because as you know, for the city to cut those checks would, to cut 159, and actually I think we're talking about more than that. That would be a big challenge. So and those organizations tend to get some percentage of what the total dollar amount is, or based on how many grants they're going to process. So I don't know. I want to say like $50,000 to $100,000, depending on.
And Mitch, when you think about what your department did, or would you same ballpark for you, in that if it has to be somebody's job to manage it, and this is how many people or how much we think it would cost?
Yes, I think that's a pretty accurate assumption. I think that, a part of Karen's comments was focusing on the administrative piece, but I also think that the other piece in which you talked about, that outreach piece, is extremely important, and that comes at a cost too, to get people out in those streets and vehicles, to knock on doors, to expand on established relationships, or just seem trusted and knowledgeable of the issue, that folks can respond to the opportunity. I think is important to lift up as well.
My final question, Mr. Chairman, and I just want Karen and Mitch to get this on the record for me. That's an important part, Mitch. So tell me, and whether or not my frame of thinking right now is along the lines of what both you and Karen just described. Would that be finding an entity within the barbershop beauty salon industry that would then be funded and responsible for taking a message about the availability of this new product, or an extension of the product that we have? They would be responsible for getting it to people, across the city, on corridors across the city. And Councilmember Squilla, you said something that I also don't think about. A lot of people thought about that some of the salons are not on major commercial quarters. Some of them are like by themselves on a corner, and then it's just residential properties, surrounding them. So we've got to make sure we don't leave them out. So is that what we were thinking? And we were thinking about the barbershop and beauty salon, trade organization, that we would fund them and then they would do the work of getting to them. Is that what we're thinking?
Yeah, I think that's one way to do it, for sure. You got to make sure that they're not going to only work with their members. Like that would be, there's always details to be worked out, but that's all surmountable. Yeah. And what we've done before is we had like a number of trusted, we can figure it out. One way we did it before, we had a number of organizations, and anybody that helped somebody with an application was then eligible, like got reimbursed on the back end. But the other way to do it would be nice to maybe fund somebody on the front end, so that they are out there really, doing the outreach. I'm sure the organizations prefer the front end, but either way, I think it's really important to recognize the cost and the work that goes into that.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
Mitch, you affirm that?
Yes, I do, and I think that, to both of your points, I think as these businesses are coming together and problem solving to their needs and creating coalitions on their own, and I think for us, we knew that it wasn't enough dollars there to really meet the need, as quite often is our work. But grateful to continue to have the conversation, show proof of concept, and a light at the end of the tunnel for some of these businesses as we think about how we can provide additional support. Not only the additional dollars, but as were mentioned in testimony here today, just better business practices, accounting, opportunities to stay in their business and be able to apply and not have to shutter their shop. And so if we're thinking about this comprehensively, this is really a great day, and we appreciate you having the conversation, both you and the council and the chairperson.
So Chairman Squill, I just want to close with this again. Thank you, Mitch. Thank you, Karen, for expressing your sentiments here today. The last part of Karen's testimony, and Karen, this hit me when you talked about setting that criteria for eligibility and preference to ensure that the funds reach the target audience to support and not waste the time of our vital small business community. For the benefit of the viewing public, before we started officially this morning, I was sharing with Chairman Squilla that I had noticed that more of the salons that were chain-based, like franchise out, and I mentioned the one that I knew of, and I'm sort of not just picking on this one, but I want you to have a framework of what I'm describing. The hair cuttery was like a chain that you could see in strip malls across the city. It has very much a corporate structure, but it's very different in terms of its structure when you compare it to individually owned barbershops and beauty salons. So, you know, when Chairman Squilla, when you acknowledged very early on that it would seem like the bigger guys were much more prepared, had their taxes in order, all of their records, the banking in order, they were prepped to apply for the PPP loans and everything else that was coming out because their administrative capacity and technical capacity was at a different level. And that is what we really need to take into consideration as we move forward. So again, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'm looking forward to hearing the next panel.
Thank you. For the record, also, I want to make note that Councilmember Brooks is present and Councilmember Jones has a comment or question.
So thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to thank this first panel for taking a deeper dive into commercial corridors and recognizing the importance of barbershops and beauty salons. It's where it goes down. It is our physical DM, if you would. And you can gain information, you can distribute information from those outlets. So they are far more than just small businesses and places where people get haircuts and hairdos. They are places almost like a town square. Mitch and I share a location. Raheem is a lifelong friend of Mitch's and good friend of mine. I watched his maturation as he cut in his mama's basement, grew to buy a location, to employ people, to be the barometer, if you would, for the Winfield community. If you look at places in my district like ESPN Zone on Haverford Avenue, they take it a step further. They are interveners, intercessors into gun violence, meaning they may cut a kid's hair from one corner and then cut another young man or woman's hair from several blocks away and find out based on barbershop conversation that there's a problem. And what they try to do is become intermediaries, credible messengers, if you would, to stop some of that violence. So I emphasize the fact that they're not just barbers and salon owners, they are credible messengers within our community. Finally, that was taken by ESPN to an actual program where they're really taking whole groups and working with young people to try to get them to think through, problem solve, and not have conflict resolution ending gun violence. So they are very important aspects during the pandemic. As said by members of this body, many of them didn't have their technical aspect together. They were still keeping records in the shoebox, and some of them needed to come out of that condition and come into the real world of QuickBooks or whatever. Tell me how we're going to provide technical assistance to them to be able to make sure that they navigate the paperwork to be successful.
Was that our question?
Was that a comment?
That is a question mark at the end of the comment.
Okay, who wants to answer that?
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. And commerce, like I said, we've been working on these issues since pre-pandemic, and I won't say I don't want to say anything good thing about pandemic, but it has made businesses realize that this is really important. So we have a number of service providers that can address these kinds of things. We brought on, we just expanded our Biz Coach program, which is the one-on-one service. Now, instead of one firm, we've had JT Goldstein, we're going to add another firm to serve more businesses. We also have some of our TA providers who have accountants and bookkeepers on board to help people one-on-one with that. So we really encourage people to call us at Commerce, our Office of Business Services, 215-683-2100. And we can hook you up with some of these organizations that provide this kind of assistance.
So also, I would be remiss if I didn't recognize member Derek Green's barber, Ali, up on North Broad Street. But again, these are places that if you go, salons as well, that you hear unfiltered truth as they see it. And you have an opportunity while you're getting serviced in that barbershop to present your case, and a wide range of public policies are discussed there. And so them being a part of the fabric of a commercial card, them surviving the pandemic, one of the things, not the only thing, one of the things that let me know that the world was not topsy-turvy was when they were able to start cutting again. So keeping them a part of our communities is an essential aspect of keeping the fiber of our community together. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Council Member. Also, for the record, I want to note that Council Member O is present at the hearing today. Next, we will move on to our next panel to testify. I'll just read the next three names, and if they're available, we'll start from the first one: Ann Turner, Daryl Thomas, and Talia Torres. Ann, we'll start with you, and then we'll go down. Just state your name for the record, and then we can proceed with your testimony.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Councilmember Johnson.
Just notifying for the record that I'm present.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Councilmember Johnson is also present for the hearing today.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And just state your name for the record and then proceed with your testimony. Thank you.
Yes, good morning. My name is Ann Turner. I'm the owner of Hair du Jour Salon. I'm also the president of the PA Professional Image Alliance, which is the Beauty and Barber Alliance. Some of our team leads have been trying to get on since they were actually on at 8:45. So some of them were on early, and I don't believe they can get on now. So these are some of the things that have happened to us as small businesses. As an example, we've been pushed out like this today. Some of our team leads were going to testify. I'm not sure if they're able to do so. But I wanted to say some of the things that I appreciate Ms. Karen from the Commerce Department. We've worked with Divested In as well as Entrepreneur Works. There have been major challenges with the SABER grant in the very beginning. And I say that to say we had to contact the city because some of the businesses wasn't getting access to the information when it was being released. So when it did come to fruition, a large number of beauty and barbershops in certain districts that I'm familiar with received the grant. Then just most recent, they received the email, and unfortunately, a lot of people didn't want to do the DocuSign, and they had to call us as business owners, which is I'm the president. They was like, and should we sign it? We think this is spam. And so I think the technical support is really crucial when it comes to our team administering information, but also we've partnered up with so many different entities to make sure that our businesses get the resources like the Comcast Rise, like the Google cameras from the Urban League, working directly with the Chamber of Commerce. The problems that we're having as small businesses is that we do get pushed out. We do get minimized as if we don't pay QuickBooks and things of that nature. The accountants have to take accountability that they don't help our small businesses to scale up and get the resources and information applicable to our micro businesses. The issues that I was having as a small business owner is that my clients don't feel safe coming back in because of the variances. So we did the COVID initiative and we were able to get direct funding from the city with Philly Council as well as the University of Penn to keep our businesses safe as well as our clients safe. So we always took the precautionary measures as small business owners, because sanitation is first in our industry when it comes to being licensed by the state. So we had to make that clear in the very beginning that we were first to close and last to reopen, and they deemed us as being unsafe. So from the very beginning, our businesses took the leadership role and created the process to keep our businesses and our customers safe. And they were able to assist major hospitals with their vital information. We've learned that we are the smaller fish in the pond, so we do get disrespected as small businesses. But we're more than just business owners, like Councilwoman Sherelle Parker and Councilman Jones alluded to. We deal with the gun violence, we deal with the anxiety, we deal with the voting issues, and we are very transparent to small businesses that don't want to vote, as well as their customers that don't want to vote and things of that nature. My concern is moving forward, when they said that PA Professional Image Alliance partnered up with the SABER grant, that was one individual who received the contract and not our organization. So everything that we do within our alliance is not just Ann Turner that get highlight and get a personal paycheck. It really is for the businesses. So just most recent, we received funding, and all of our businesses received resources because they've done personal training to help better their community and their family as well as their friends. And we still have other initiatives waiting to be compensated for, to continue to do the things that we've been fighting to do, and that is to keep our businesses open and thriving. So when it comes to the state funding, we're working on a business accelerator, and we're waiting for our resources. We're also waiting for other additional funding. And these are things that they said, oh, we promise you we're going to get those things and we're going to expedite it. However, those things haven't come to fruition. We're always very hopeful, and our team leads have been on calls from the very beginning of the pandemic for hours. I know a lot of the councilmatic district as well as some of the senators, and I know that because of this pandemic, I've had relationships but never had to ask for the government support to keep our businesses thriving. So during this hearing, if you can hear anything, you will hear that my children matter to me. The next generation of wealth matters to our Black and brown businesses. Tila is one of the leaders who is Hispanic, a part of our organization. So we have a very diverse group. And she was able to relate to some of the Hispanic businesses the importance of being not just a part of our alliance, but understanding don't be afraid to grow your business and give information. So we have been a trusted messengers throughout this pandemic. We've always been a person that people go to get their car fixed, the funeral homes and things of that nature. So if we need to do things, we have been able to do it on our own, and within our consortium, we've been strong enough to maintain our level of sanity during this crisis. But if we can get the support in reference to this new bill, that would be very helpful to strengthen not just our businesses, but also the training that we're doing moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Much appreciated. And it really goes to show the more effort we need to do here in government to make sure we do that outreach necessary to make sure everyone is included. Next we have, I don't know if Darrell Thomas is available. I know he was one of the ones trying to connect.
I think they're working on that, Mr. Chairman, trying to see if they can get him back on.
Ms. Talia, I know Ms. Torres, I know she was also one of the ones who was trying to connect. So, all right, we could go to Zena Patrick.
Yes, easy.
Zena, just state your name for the record and then you could proceed. Thank you.
Good morning, Zena Johnson Patrick. I'm an owner and operator here for you. I'm hair salon. I've been in business for 28 years. I too did not receive the EIDL loan. Funding ran out before I was able to receive it. My business has not been the same since COVID hit. On 1 South Street, everything has gone up. My rent, bills, utilities, while my income has decreased. Clients are more reluctant to come to the shop because of their obstruction in the city because of the parking. The parking is horrible because we have these eateries out front. My view is obstructed from the street. You cannot see my salon from the street view, but that doesn't make a difference. I still have to pay and do what I have to do to stay afloat. And because of the fact that my zip code is 19146, I was not able to receive the SABER grant. I mean, because of the fact that I'm punished because I'm on a commercial corridor. However, I still had the same bills, if not more, than the people in the other corridors. And this has really impacted Hair for You and my business. Like I said, I want to make it to 30 years. I'm pushing hard to stay at 28. So we need your help, guys. We definitely need your help. I am Vice President of PPIA. Along with Ms. Ann, we came together because of Daryl Thomas at this time of the pandemic to help businesses to do what they had to do to stay afloat. And for the businesses that did not have their stuff, we were their technical support. We volunteered for that. We all came together and put together their paperwork to help them get contacted the state for their taxes, the city for their taxes, help them get everything in order so they could qualify. But at the same time, they were still left out in the cold.
Thank you, Zena, for your testimony. And again, it just shows the more effort we need to do as we move forward. And next on our list to testify is Jamal Davis from Max Level. Jamal, just state your name for the record and you can proceed with your testimony.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Jamal Davis. I'm a third-generation barber and community leader in the city of Philadelphia. I'm also a mentor, a barber educator, and also a hair industry culture cultivator. I just wanted to speak to the fact that I was actually one of the businesses that did receive the SABER grant, which was helpful to my business. It wasn't enough to help the entire business in terms of some of the other people that are in my barbershop. So I host barbers, multiple barbers. I also host a nail tech and also host hairstylists in the barbershop. COVID has dramatically impacted my business and the businesses in our communities. I'm also a part of PPIA and I represent the barbershops. One of the things that, we wanted to push for was for all of our small businesses to be able to benefit from these resources that are coming out. So just like Zena said, she wasn't able to get the SABER grant. For us, any of us that are supported, that is something that is our mission, is to try to make sure everyone that is in our small businesses and our communities are supported, because everyone counts. Our businesses come together as communities. We support communities. So when one section of our community is suffering, it impacts us all. I'm familiar also with Brother Curtis Jones with the barbershop that he was speaking of, ESPM Hair Zone. ESPM Hair Zone is on the other side of West Philadelphia, around the Master Street side, and Maximum Level, my barbershop, is on the other section, which is the Haverford Street side. We had a major conflict between young men and our communities. So Brother Mike from ESPM Hair Zone and myself, we got together. We spoke to some of the youth that were a part of this major friction that they had between the two communities, and we were able to get some balance based on us having, a position of leadership in our communities, based on us having relationships with our youth. These are things that are behind the scenes that are helping our communities, in so many different ways. So when you think of a barbershop and when you think of a beauty salon, it's a lot that people in other positions just don't understand. And so that's why it's important for the people in the actual industry to be those people that are the leaders when it comes to making sure other barbershops and salons or other small businesses in our urban community are supported. They would know about Zena's shop, which is on a major corridor, but it's still a small business in itself. They would know about the ESPM hair zones or the Maximum Level barbershops that has boot camps for young men so that they can earn their barber license or earn skills so that they can maintain, feed their families, and stay out of the streets themselves. So in particular, I have one student that that was actually working in my shop since he was in middle school, sweeping hair. And this young man on December 29th got his barber license, and on April 14th got his own barbershop. And that just happened of this year, this young man got his own barbershop, and it's a beautiful thing. These are the things that we do behind the scenes. They don't get heard, they don't get seen, but these are the things that resonate. We start the culture. It starts to influence other young men to see that you can thrive, you can still be who you are, you can still earn and do something positive in your community. These are the people that we need to have at the forefront to have resources for other businesses that most people may not see or even hear from that are doing the work behind the scenes in urban communities. So I just wanted to, speak my piece on that. I think it makes sense to have the people that have been doing the work with no compensation, that have been doing the work genuinely, that have been doing the work above board. I think it only makes sense to have those people as the leaders when it comes to resources for the other businesses that are in our communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamal. Thank you for your testimony. And it's great to hear, too, that even, people who did receive the grant are still willing and out there advocating for others, because that's important for all of us. And now I see that Daryl, I know we had skipped Daryl, and he is now online. Daryl, do you just want to state your name for the record and then begin with your testimony?
Yes, sir. Daryl Thomas, owner of Philly Cuts Barbershop, 4409 Chestnut Street. Testimony goes as such. We opened up, we broke ground, opened the business up in 1997, September 1st. We, through the help of Councilwoman Janie Blackwell, we achieved our home. We own our bricks at 4409. That was 2007. We're very and forever grateful and appreciative of her and State Representative Jim Roebuck. So it brings me up to date when you do business. When you do business and in the city of Philadelphia, you do business anywhere, you have to integrate yourself at the political level, and that's what we did. And we got tremendous assistance because we had great leadership. We have great leadership now here in City Council. I've been assisted by many who are on this call right now. When the pandemic hit, we reached out to individuals in the political realm, and were assisted greatly because it was a dire need. This was probably the first time that this has been done from the Black Barbershop and Beauty Salon perspective. We've created an organization with great leadership and tremendous intentions, and we're in dire need of your assistance. We've partnered with some agencies, and we'll let them remain nameless, that had good intentions from the start, but the follow through wasn't quite what we expected it to be. Many of, if you ride through the neighborhood, you'll see that many barbershops and beauty salons have closed. You may know of many have closed. In the community, we know particulars of who didn't make it through the pandemic. At this current point, at this current time, numbers are down. We at Philly Cuts, we house about 18 chairs, and our numbers are down tremendously. So the assistance that has been afforded to us by the SABER grants and other grants, it has been tremendous. But I'm very optimistic. I'm optimistic because we have this call today. I'm optimistic with the intentions, what I've seen individuals on this panel, their works and their results, and I know what they're capable of, and I know where their interests lie. So, without being longer-winded than I normally am, I'll relax, and I'm very appreciative, and I'm very optimistic. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. It's very helpful insight and much appreciated.
Yes, sir.
Next, we have
Point of information.
Councilmember. Yes, go ahead, Councilmember Jones.
The Darrell's testimony was very humble and understated. If you go to his shop, it is a town square where everything can be discussed, a lot of bad things can be prevented, and a lot of good information distributed. Without that shop at that location, West Philadelphia, in particular, even though his clientele is citywide, statewide, tri-state, some things, the things that were averted because of credible messengers in his shop is priceless. So, I mean, I'm preaching to the choir on this committee, but if you ever get an opportunity to go through there and hear the level of discussion, the level of intervention, but I must warn you, it's uncut. And if they think you're doing a good job, they'll tell you. If they believe you're not doing a good job, they will tell you. And it is a true reflection of how people feel. I never forget during the, not that this is a political thing, during the Democratic presidential Republican debate, and you heard some real commentary that needed to be heard. So I'm grateful to Darrell. Also used to cut my son's hair for what he does, not just as a barber, but as an entrepreneur in that community. So thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilmember, for your comments.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Councilmember Parker, you have your hand up. Did you want to make a comment?
Mr. Chairman, I can make my comments after the entire panel. If the panel is finished, you let me know, and then I want to make some comments.
Okay. No, we still have I know we have Will Shelton, and we also have the association that is here to testify. Is Will available?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, Will, just state your name for the record, and then you can proceed with your testimony.
All right. Yes, my name is Will Shelton. I'm the president of Willpower Integrated Marketing. My company has a network of over 50,000 Black barbershops and salons all across the nation. And I work with barbershops and salons in Philadelphia and their salon owners. And it's just important. I mean, barbers and salon owners, they don't just shape hair, they shape the culture and they shape the community one cut at a time. They're the incubators of the culture and they're the cultivators of the culture. You know, the Black barbershops are like the ecosystem that makes the Black community flourish. You know, your stylist or barber can get more out of you how important they are. Black Lives Matter in Black barbershops before the Black Lives Matter movement even started. They were there for civil rights activism. They moonlighted as literal town halls where Black men and women would gather to organize and expand political networks. And those profits were used often back in the day for political movement to support marches, create protest signs, and even bail out protesters out of jail. They're really the architects or a blueprint for how the Black community, you know, that they can't survive without that. They offer such a place of rest.
Not sure. Will,
did you cut out? Sorry.
Yeah, there you go. You're back.
Okay. All right. So
we only lost the last couple seconds.
Okay, no problem. But I've run programs. Last year I work with global brands, and last year we ran a Rise Above COVID program to get Blacks to participate in clinical trials. You know, it's so hard to reach the Black community for clinical trials, but because of things that have happened in the past. So one way to reach them is in the barbershops, where we turn the barbershops and the salons into pillars of health, where they became credible messengers and ambassadors for facts about the vaccine, the new monoclonal antibody treatments that were coming out, and we really were able to educate and to help people as far as their health would go. So, I mean, they're even important on that level. I put together programs for, you know, different brands that want to connect with the African American community, and they actually, these brands invest. You know, most brands want loyalty, but I teach them you have to gain the Black community's respect, and you have to gain their trust in order to gain their loyalty. So there's so many things that the barbershop and the salons offer to the community. So I just wanted to give those statements today and that testimony from my vantage point in working with shop owners all over the country, in Philadelphia, and working with global brands and working with pharmaceutical companies to do outreach in these Black communities.
Thank you so much, and well said, and it does definitely have an impact on how these businesses are able to operate. Next person to testify, the association, I guess there's a group of who's going to represent them. Just state your name. You can state your name and organization, but also state the name of the person who's testifying, and then we'll go from there.
My name is Daniel. We have our advisors here.
See if you, we're having a little hard time. Start over again.
Do you hear us?
Go ahead, try it again.
Do you hear us? Do you hear us?
We hear you now.
Yes, do you hear me now?
Just, state your name and then you can proceed with your testimony.
Good morning, my name is Daniel Solis, from President of the Cosmetology Association of PA. Can I hear me?
Yeah, we got you. Yeah, it's real low. We got you.
We have our advisors here. Right. Do you hear us?
Yeah, proceed.
All right, so I'm their advisor and also a translator. I will be translating for them today. Tanya is the president of the nonprofit organization for the Hispanic Cosmetology Association. Gloria Castro. Soy la secretaria ejecutiva de la Asociación de Cosmetólogas y soy dueña del salón de belleza. Gloria Castro is the secretary and also owner of the hair salon, but she's also the secretary for the association, which is a nonprofit association. We also want to thank you guys for allowing us to testify and be in front of you guys and testifying. We also wanted to share that during the pandemic, our organization was able to help our community through donations of food, also helping them get vaccinated through the different stages of the vaccine, and helping our hairstylists and our hair salons applying for the different grants and applying for the different loans. As the other hair salons mentioned, that we were kind of like the technical support for the hair salons in our community. However, because of the pandemic, we were able to continue forward, but it has not been the same. It's been very difficult, and also a lot of hair salons have been closed. They haven't been able to make it with the help that they received. It still wasn't enough for some hair salons. Also, many people, some customers have not returned because they've been afraid. We lost hairstylists because of the pandemic. They've been afraid to come to the salon and work with other hairstylists because of this. So they've decided to start working from their home. And that has also affected our economy a lot because these hairstylists are now working from home, which they're saving money in regards to they don't have to provide and have that extra expense that the hair salons have to be able to meet the requirements or keep the salon safe. So when they're working from home, they're not having to spend this money, and they're also not paying what we're paying and the taxes that we have to pay at the salon.
Sí, y yo como dueña del salón de belleza, aparte de realizar una actividad social de un impacto positivo a nuestra comunidad, como lo hicimos por medio de la asociación, ayudando a nuestras asociadas, también me he visto muy afectada porque no tengo personal de trabajo.
And me as a secretary, I also have a hair salon, and I also been very effective because by the pandemic because it's hard for me to find hairstylists now. I'm very short-staffed. Many people are not working at the salons anymore, like we already mentioned. So this has affected me tremendously.
Mas, sin embargo, he cumplido con todas mis obligaciones con la ciudad.
However, I've been trying to, fulfill, and I have fulfilled all my requirements with regards to the city and with the safety of our customers.
Y en medio, conversando con las colegas dueñas de negocio, estamos muy preocupadas porque necesitamos que la ciudad nos ayude.
So in speaking with the other hair salon owners, we've discussed and we need the city to
nos ayude a tener un control porque la gran mayoría de personas están trabajando desde las casas sin el debido cuidado o mantenimiento que se debe tener para prestar un buen servicio en condiciones para prestar un buen servicio de salud pública.
So we need the city to help us take control and manage the hairstylists that are working from home because it's not the same. The requirements and everything that's required to provide a good service is not applied from the home. So what we're asking is from the city to be able to help and control what's going on in our community, which is that a lot of hairstylists are just working from home and are not working from the salon.
Sí, porque son lugares que no están en condiciones aptos para prestar un servicio y cuidar la salud pública.
So a lot of these places at home are not equipped or are not properly organized to be able to provide a service that meets the safety and health requirements.
Además, los gastos son muchos porque el cuidado que debemos tener en los salones para garantizar la higiene y garantizar la no propagación del virus es muy costoso y en las casas no lo están haciendo.
Yeah, so as we mentioned already, the expense that you have to use at the salon is a lot more to be able to provide for masks, sanitizer, cleaning, ensuring that everything is up to care in regards to the health and safety of our customers. This same expense is not used and is not utilized from at home. You don't have to do any of these things because there's no regulation.
Para estas personas es muy cómodo trabajar desde la casa.
For these individuals, it's very comfortable to work from home.
Y por eso es que hoy, en medio de la comunidad y de la Asociación de Cosmetólogas de Pensilvania, tenemos un gran número de negocios que han tenido que cerrar sus
And
puertas.
that's why throughout our community and our Hispanic community, we have a lot of salons that have had to close because there's not a lot of people working, and a lot of the customers are going and seeing people at their house.
¿Cuál es nuestra petición a la ciudad? Que aunque no nos consideran esenciales, nosotros sí somos esenciales. Nosotros tenemos un contacto directo con nuestros clientes como si fuéramos médicos, como si fuéramos enfermeras. Y más sin embargo, no nos consideran como indispensables, y eso lo estamos haciendo. Entonces es bueno que le den una atención al grupo de cosmetólogas y de barberos de la ciudad.
Yes. So what we ask from the city, well, our petition is that even though we're not considered essential, however, we do have direct contact with our customers, and like the other barbers expressed, like our business are essential, like a doctor, which you have direct contact with the individual. So what we ask the city is that we are looked at as essential, and we are looked at as important in our community.
Además, como lo dijeron los anteriores expositores, nosotros sí generamos un impacto positivo en nuestra comunidad de reconciliación, de armonía, de comunicación, y hemos podido aportar a la comunidad en la post-pandemia un bienestar.
Yeah, so as the other barbers and hair salon owners mentioned already, we do have a positive impact of harmony, communication, and integration in our community. So that's very important. That's something we want to make sure it's understood.
Como por ejemplo, me dicen mis clientas después de la reapertura, solo con venir al salón estoy feliz, estaba que me enloquecía en mi casa. Eso es importante saberlo.
Like some customers have expressed to them that just by going to the hair salon, they feel relieved. They feel like they're doing something, you know? So that's important, and that has to take into place with the mental health of all the customers, you know, which is important, you know?
Entonces, es muy importante que nos tengan en cuenta. En nombre de la Asociación de Cosmetólogas, agradecemos esta participación y estamos atentos a que cuando requieran de nosotros, aquí estamos con nuestra presidenta. Muchas gracias.
So yeah, it's very important, and we really appreciate being here testifying. And whenever you guys need, we're here to provide our input. And in the name of our association, thank you very much.
Sí, muchas gracias de mi parte también, y a nombre de todas nuestras asociadas, esperamos que nuestra petición pues llegue positivamente y nos respondan.
So thank you very much for having us. And in the name of our association, we would really emphasize that our petitions and our input is taken into consideration and get to your ears, and something can be done. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that testimony. And it really means a lot to hear that. Yes. We do have one more person to testify. I know, Councilmember Parker, you wanted to make a comment, but we couldn't get Ms. Torres on, but Tanya Robinson,
Tanya,
I think is available. Tanya, if you're there, if you want to state your name for the record and give your testimony as the last person to testify.
Tanya.
Tanya already testified.
Oh, that's you here? Okay. All right, I apologize. I'm sorry. Great job. Thank you so much. And thank you for that. Thank you for the translation also. Much appreciated. Thank everyone for testifying. And before we end the hearing, I know we have a comment from Councilmember Parker.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the benefit of everyone who testified here today, and for the benefit of the viewing public, it's important to me that you know how we got here. Ann and Daryl, The time is running together, so I don't remember exactly when, but I do remember, Daryl, you were in a car like you were today, and you were in a place like you are right now. We had a Zoom meeting with the Commerce Department and with the administration, and it was during that time that you laid out for me an issue that I knew that all of my colleagues thought was important in their respective regions, when you started talking about the barriers to access, about sometimes when we develop programs with very good intentions, the dollars don't always reach the people who we want to support the most. And so I want to say to Ann and to Daryl in particular, thank you so very much for speaking plainly. I didn't have to decode anything. Although I'm not in your industry, I understood clearly the barriers. I also wanted to say thank you because she really, really laid it out. She said she was on South Street. Zena, when Zena talked about basically, Mr. Chairman, she was getting penalized because she was in the wrong zip code. Because she wasn't in one of those zip codes that were in the deepest poverty in the city, although she is a Black-owned business, she was not able to take advantage of the program. Again, good intentions, Chairman Squilla and Councilmember Jones, when we start talking about who we want to impact, but because of the way it was designed and we kept focusing on areas with the deepest poverty, we created a system of haves and have-nots about those who are owners and trying to survive in a particular industry. So you've informed us today that we, in essence, picked winners and losers in how we designed the program. And no one should be penalized if they're trying to survive. There should be a level playing field. So I want to say a special thank you to each of you, and in particular for the Hispanic Association. It is so very important for us. It was important for us to hear your voices here today, because if this has happened to the overall industry nationwide and statewide here in the Commonwealth, you've heard the saying that if the nation, has a cold, Black and brown folks get the flu. And so what you described about the barriers, the challenges that you've experienced, it is across the board. And I know that my colleagues, we needed to get this done in the midst of the budget process, because now is the time to have the discussion. So to all of our colleagues here today, we're having our meetings. We're trying to figure out what that final product is going to look like. And I know from what I've heard today, we're going to make sure that this industry is not looped into, quote unquote, the all small businesses sort of umbrella, because what you're experiencing is very unique. And as Councilmember Jones and Squilla noted, and you noted in your testimony, you are more than the simple professional services that people view barbershops, barbers, and hair salons and stylists, right? You do so much more in our community, but people you won't know that we believe you are essential until you see what that pot looks like at the end of the budget negotiations. What the pot looks like, how streamlined is the process so that you can get access to the funding, and then how many more. And I want to say to Karen and to Mitch, the administration is listening. I want to be laser focused on making sure that we are not doing what Zena described. Thank you, Zena, again. Pitting haves and have-nots because somebody is in the right neighborhood. I mean, it just reminds me, Councilmember Jones, of people saying somebody lives on the wrong side of the tracks. Because your business is located in the wrong area, although you're struggling the same, you haven't gotten access to that opportunity. So we will keep you posted. Daryl and Ann, special thank you to you for saying we need to get this on a public record. Philadelphia needs to know what's happening in this industry. We did that today. Now, the only thing you can do is wait to see what happens when our budget process is complete, and that all members of City Council of Philadelphia have acknowledged that your industry needs the support that it deserves from our city of Philadelphia. So thank you all so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, leader.
Thank
Appreciate
you, everyone.
your
I
comments.
appreciate.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody who had testified, and your testimony was very well received. And since there's no other questions or members to testify, this will conclude the business before the committee today on Commerce and Economic Development. Thank you all very much for your attendance and work. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.